All right, kids, usually when there's a national tragedy and there's not only a victim of an act of violence, but there's also a perpetrator whose face will be all over the news, I, like millions of my people all over the country, will say, I hope he's not black. It's kind of a rite of passage at this point. Well, for the first time in my life, last week, after Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, I said to myself, I hope it wasn't a leftist who did it. And before I continue, I'm not going to pretend like leftists aren't violent. We got problems. I've said so many times, we don't like ourselves or each other. We're rarely even on speaking terms with the rest of America, which is why I'm telling you, don't engage the right or the wrong people, if you know what I mean. The type that when you tell them who Charlie Kirk was, you might get told that you're taking him out of context or paraphrasing him, or they'll say, don't speak ill of the dead when you're simply quoting him. I guess some get more free speech than others. The type that when you tell them who Tyler Robinson isn't, you may get met with the idea that he was radicalized in college at Utah State University, the one semester he was there.
How does a 22-year-old become so filled with hate? 5 years earlier, I was told he was a Trump supporter. And we sent our kids off to college and they brainwashed them. I am making a plea to mothers out there. Do not send your children into these indoctrination camps. Don't do it. Do not do it.
That's Carrie Lake making up stuff at Charlie Kirk's vigil. She graduated from the University of Iowa. Her kids are either in college currently or went to college in the past. Anyways, this is the kind of nonsense you gotta deal with IRL. And if you're going to argue with somebody online, it could be against a blue check or a bot. There's no use. Don't engage. So if there's a such thing as middle ground in today's political climate, and it's proven that Charlie Kirk's murder was political violence, then we can agree that political violence is always wrong, no matter what. And it's all this country has ever known. Recent history tells us how this country responds when a European American causes destruction and death if it can't be politicized. Then that story goes away, but we'll get back to that later. For now, give those folks space and opportunity to fight inflation and the most recent jobs report. They should be. The rest of America has to combat the other school shootings that took place on September 10th and September 11th. With that said, I have taken it upon myself to show you who you would be contending with.
They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves.
Who's they? All of a sudden, people who have denied that English put in plural form can be applied to a single person are using preferred pronouns. Keep in mind, this clip and most of the clips that I'm about to show you were recorded before we knew who murdered Charlie Kirk. We were already aware of the fact that it took one shot and one bullet from one person to bring about this horrible situation. And oh yeah, who's their we? And us. They've declared war with us. We're talking about liberals? Leftists? Libs of TikTok tweeted, "This is war," all caps. And to be clear, Chaya Raichik ain't gonna do shit. She should be busy giving us phase 2 of the Epstein files. And by the way, we still don't know what's in those binders. But she knows that her followers could do something. All they need to see is an Eminem be less sexy or a beer company give a trans woman cans with their face on it. To get radical.
Jesse's right. If they could do this, they are capable of anything. I think that was the message. I believe that was the message. It's really hard to radicalize Republicans.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're not the radical type.
We need to talk about sane-washing while remaining uncivil. I'm preaching to the choir, but this chorus of cries for civil war on Charlie's behalf had certain people changing their tune once faced with the fact that they couldn't criminalize the other side of the aisle, like they did with the Epstein files. As my man Max said, Since these people are busy rewriting their history and deleting their posts, here's how the lower the temperature right acted when they thought Charlie Kirk's shooter was a transgender liberal and realized that their opponent's political ideology doesn't matter to them. They don't even notice that they are what they oppose.
You caused it. Look at me right now. You caused this. When you tell people that someone is Hitler, you are telling crazy people, go kill them. And I am sick of pretending that that is anything other than what they're doing.
See what I mean? Clay Travis later admitted that words are not violence. And whether he knows it or not, and will acknowledge it or not, the current vice president called the current president America's Hitler. Said current president has dined with those who refer to themselves as Nazis or say and do Nazi stuff or are Nazi sympathizers, which are Nazis. And Donald Trump has called Kamala Harris a fascist multiple times. If I didn't know any better, because of tweets like this, I would think that the person debating Charlie Kirk was actually the one losing so bad that he was the one that pulled out a gun and fired it. Charlie Kirk died during an event at Utah Valley University on Wednesday, September 10th in Orem, Utah. I don't need to tell you that Orem and Utah at large are predominantly white Mormon places, with many, if not most, of the people in power in that state being conservative. It is legal to open carry a gun on Utah's public university and college campuses with very few exceptions. The state is possibly the most permissive in the country when it comes to guns and what few laws restrict them, including in higher education spaces. That isn't to say that any law would have saved Kirk that day, let alone a good guy with a gun stopping a bad guy with a gun. Speaking of, when the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the one that the GOP wanted to defund, sought out the trigger man, they seemed to struggle. Kash Patel, director of the FBI, had two different subjects, his words, not mine, in custody, not suspects, and eventually released them. You should know that back in March, it was reported that thousands of federal law enforcement officials from multiple agencies were enlisted to take on new work as immigration officers, pulling crime-fighting resources away from other areas. Agents who pursue drug traffickers and tax fraud are being reassigned to enforce immigration law. Federal agents who usually hunt down child abusers are now cracking down on immigrants who live in the U.S. illegally. Law enforcement relies on tips from time to time, and this case isn't unique in that regard. And again, I'm not saying that the agency would have prevented this murder. However, it's as if they were looking for a non-white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male for some reason.
This shit ends. Like, enough is enough. And now I have to deal with real safety concerns. It sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-tranny. And just because I want to protect women, that I'm worried about getting murdered? Are you fucking kidding me? It's out of control, and enough is enough. And I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to be more vigilant than ever. I'm going to be louder than I've ever been until this shit stops. It's got to stop.
Representative Nancy Mace went from wanting to bring back the death penalty prior to an arrest being made to wanting to pray for such an evil and lost individual like Tyler Robinson to find Jesus a day and a half later. I wonder why that is. I hope you've noted that so far, I'm addressing the mainstream right-wing politicians and pundits, not some mysterious unnamed monster in your comment section and your mentions. With these contradictions and inconsistencies, we're making our way to the top. I mean, when did the left become a political party? And who is celebrating cold-blooded murder?
Shot him and killed him. And the left's celebrating it. And all the Democrats calling for violence. Just everything else is just sick filth.
Leftists across social media are making their wish list of who they'd like to see assassinated next. I've seen my name on the list. Benz is on it. Many other names.
We're not going to have a group hug and sit down with Democrats. They are targeting conservatives. They're targeting leaders because the left is not going to get off the hook in this. All these reports coming. What do you mean we're at war abandoned? What are you talking about this? They assassinated Charlie Kirk in cold blood in a targeted exercise that took planning. And now we're going to sit here and let's have some groups. Let's get together and have a group hug.
The guy who almost definitely defamed families of Sandy Hook and called their kids crisis actors, and the guy whose anti-trans rhetoric likely assuredly led to bomb threats at Children's Hospital in Boston, and the ghost of white supremacist past, won't name names. Which Democrat? Are they in Congress? Are they elected officials? Don't get me wrong, the vote blue no matter whose were coming up with hit lists on Blue Sky. Well, it was either them or conservatives who think the Daily Wire isn't going hard enough, or both. But none of these people are prominent, and nobody is more prominent than this guy.
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. And they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy. Although they want men and women sports, they want transgender for everyone, they want open borders.
Stuff like that provides justification and cover for crazies to defend themselves from the far left, as well as for MAGA to go after its opponents. The Utah Republican Party is talking about breeding grounds for liberal hate, while Democrat and GOP college and high school groups are sending joint statements in solidarity. Good for them. Got flags all over the country at half-staff for Charlie Kirk, but Speaker of the Minnesota House, Melissa Hortman, only got that treatment in her own state. President Trump did condemn those shootings, though. Put that on there. Paul Pelosi was attacked to within an inch of his life and barely recovered before seeing conservatives post his assault as a Halloween costume. Charlie Kirk got a moment of silence at a Yankee game and other sporting events, and I didn't hear a keep politics out of sports. Matthew Dowd said something Charlie Kirk quoted on MSNBC and got fired for it. Didn't get a call out about cancel culture. They're getting folks fired from their jobs. The Matt Walshes of the world are blaming labels of Nazi and fascist and describes himself as a fascist in his own bio. Several HBCUs had to go on lockdown or cancel classes due to something that had nothing to do with black people. If I'm being generous, the shooter could be left of center, sure, or a groiper. If others can pretend like Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old from Utah, very white and Mormon and conservative, got his talking points and acquired his target from the mainstream media as if he watched Meet the Press on Sunday mornings, then why not Discord servers and 4chan memes? Or this.
Boom, gone, bang, bing, bong. When we were strong, bing, and it goes quickly, right? It's called You're Dead.
Going back to what I alluded to at the very beginning of this video about black people and leftists, us and we. The governor of Utah stated, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us, that somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country, he said. Just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. Can't none of us, any group affiliation, make that claim? Well, there is a group in particular that wants bigger, better, and bolder firearm legislation, moderation on social media, and for Palestine and Sudan to be free, but whatever. If we're going to argue about where Tyler Robinson's ideology came from, we should focus on where it went and where extremism in America often goes. To the use of guns and firearms and other means to carry out destruction and death. It's here where I want to remind you of something. Do you remember that? Do you even know it happened? On Christmas Day in 2020, Anthony Quinn Warner detonated a bomb from his RV in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, killing himself in the process and injuring 8 others. The explosion damaged an entire block of buildings. Now, it could be due to the fact that there wasn't multiple casualties. However, this story died in the news almost just after the new year rang out in 2021. Whether we know a motive or not, it was definitely terrorism. That block in Nashville didn't open again till just after a year later. Looking back on it, I'm surprised that the cities were burning during the George Floyd protest type people weren't up in arms about this. Yet, I'm not shocked. Neither liberal or conservative media could latch on to Warner's political ideology in order to blame the other side of the aisle. Therefore, we don't hear about it. They didn't engage. I'm still bothered by the police checking in on him and sweeping warnings under the rug, but that was 4 years ago, a lifetime ago on social media. When I heard about Charlie Kirk being murdered, I considered being done with this YouTube channel. I thought about switching from political commentary to sports. My audience wouldn't let me get away with that, but it's still in the back of my mind. I don't want to be a part of so many bad faith takes. It takes a lot out of you. The right wing has vowed to ramp up their free exchange and sharing of ideas in the public square, which is really just using debates as sounding boards for right wing rhetoric. That's part of the reason why I'm not a debate bro. Ben Shapiro and company are under the impression that Charlie Kirk was killed over his opinions. Okay, but I'll say this. An opinion can be wrong, bad, dumb, and dangerous. Peep Charlie Kirk's final interaction on this earth. It's not a debate. He was asked, "Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the past years?" Kirk, not wanting to give the actual, real, numerical answer because there is one, said, "Too many." True, you got me. The liberal TikToker who now regrets this encounter then asked, "Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? And instead of saying, "Too many," Kirk's response was, "Counting or not counting gang violence." I'll let you draw your own conclusions as to what he was getting at there. I'll leave with this. Something I want you to recall as we move forward that's attributed to James Baldwin. We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist. As always, we're gonna be all right.